Good evening. My name is Lisandro Scoreanzi, and with my partners Marcos Garay and Joaquín Muñoz, we will develop the paper Rainwater, an undervalued resource in Argentina. We are students of electromechanical engineering and at the faculty or university UTN FRP. Around the world, a million of people don't have access to a clean and fresh water resources. And this is a problem that affects the world nowadays, and this problem should be solved. Sometimes this problem occurs in zones where the precipitations or the rain are very irregular, and the rainwater recycling may be a solution for this lack of fresh water. Our paper is related to the NAE challenge, provide access to clean water, and the goal of ensure availability and sustainable management of water sanitation for all. For first, we are develop some reasons of why the rainwater is an undervalued resource, and some reasons for this source is very polluted when the rain fall off the roof on the roof of a house. In second place, water management in Argentina explain a contextualization about the water system resource around the country. And for lastly, a filtration system is a part of the text that is composed of three parts: processing of water filtering, that here we explain how is the filtration system working when we have first rainwater and we need to transform it into clean and fresh water. Part of the system. In this part, we explain the most important parts of a filtration system and household system. In this part, we will explain, the part of the system of filtration that are installed in a house. In this last section, we are going to explain some alternative systems and why this is the sustainability of the water filtration.
Well, hello, my name is Marcos, and I am going to talk about the reasons for limited rainwater harvesting. The information comes from research into a global context, but it can also be applied to the Argentinian context. There are many factors that affect rainwater quality. First, the air quality is impacted by the increasing population and industrial growth, and for this reason the rainwater normally gets affected. For instance, increasing the heavy metal content, such as lead. When rainwater is in the atmosphere, contamination is caused by dust particles, microorganisms, and gases such as NO, CO, and SO. Then, in the second place, there are some metal roofs that contain lead as a roof coating. Consequently, lead gets dissolved and added into rainwater. The solubility of metals is affected by the low pH of rainwater. The metal solubility is high when rainwater has pH less than 5, especially the lead solubility. According to several studies, there are toxicological effects on people's health derived from chronic exposure to lead in the short term and in the long term. In order to determine the lead health effects, a person has to measure PV or lead levels in urine. All the mentioned pollutants result in turbid rainwater, and the turbidity of water is a measurement of how clear or cloudy it is. The pollution that causes the turbidity can be physical, chemical, or biological. And to conclude with this analysis, it is clear that rainwater is not for human consumption, and it requires treatment with the appropriate technology for both drinking uses and sanitation uses. You can continue.
Thanks. Hello, my name is Joaquín Muñoz. I will develop the third part of the paper that is called water management in Argentina. In this section, the paper established that Argentina is a country with plenty of water, but the lack of proper investment on infrastructure is a problem that affects many people to reach basic service like water and sanitation. One of our sources is the Organization for Cooperation and Development that says that in 2015, more than 84% of the people had access to water. This number shows us that more than 70.5 million of people do not have access to basic service. The next slide, please, Lisandro. This is some statistic data from this organization that shows the coverage of water and sanitation in the last years of the 20th century and the beginnings of the 21st century. Next, this gap is intensifying due to the economic and social difference in the cities, and by the long distance in the rural areas. In this sense, by statistic data, the paper shows that the poor areas and rural areas have not the same coverage that the areas where there are concentrated the economic and social resources. These arguments are included on the paper to emphasize the fact that the water coverage in Argentina is not a solvent problem, and that the rainwater harvesting can be a great solution if it is applied in the right way. This method to harvest water requires less investment than agreed and low maintenance. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Now I will explain the filtration system. The process of water filtering is necessary for sorry, I will check my notes. For the treatment and the sterilization of the rainwater. When the rainwater fall on the roof, this water is carried by gutters at the edge of the roof. This water throw around a first filter, and this first filter eliminate all the microparticles from the water. After this first filter, the water is carried by pipes to underground tank near the house, where the water is disinfected by a passive process, where all the harmful bacteria die after 2 days. When this process of disinfection ends, the water is pumped by a centrifugate pump to the main tank on the roof of the house, and after this treatment, all the particles are removed from the water by a filter that remove all the particles in suspension, and the water is apt for human consumption or be used in water systems that need clean and safe water.
Okay, next slide if you want. Now we are going to talk about the filters, the tank and the pump of the system. The system has to first filter the water from big particles to small particles. The first filter is located under the roof gutter and connected by the pipes to the tank. It is a mesh filter whose function is to stop big particles such as tree leaves, debris, and garbage. Then in the second place we have the tank and the pump. The gravity fed systems will not need a pump, for example, but in our case we are going to talk about domestic systems, where the tank is commonly buried underground. There is a tank of polyester resin that is a food grade material, and this tank is approved by the US Food and Drug Administration. This is green in color and helps to reduce bacterial growth. Apart from this one, we have different types of tanks that are proposed by innovative water solutions company that can be found in the references of the project. For instance, polyethylene and galvanized metal tanks are pretty popular. Nevertheless, these materials may not be available in every location. A different material can be chosen according to the country's recommendation. And finally, I'm going to describe the second filter, that is the main filter of the system. There are many rainwater filter methods, but we choose the filter that used Kashan in his experiment. This is a filtration tube combined with gravel, mollusk sand, and activated carbon. The mollusk sand is the top material in the tube, and it forms a film layer that filters the pollutant particles such as dust and metals or non-metals such as bacteria and viruses. It is very effective in decreasing lead concentration and turbidity, and in increasing the pH of rainwater compared to the ordinary sand. Then we have the activated carbon that is the second layer in the tube and is used for absorbing pollutants that escape from mollusk sand filtration. It has diverse surface characteristics and a pore size distribution that are important in the absorption of contaminants. The absorption process deals with both organic and inorganic substances and is able to decrease metal substances found in rainwater. The gravel is the last layer and has a similar function to activated carbon. Coarse gravel captures particles in the pores, and fine gravel does the same, but with smaller pores. To conclude this part, the best filtration process is the best filtration process for decreasing pollutants, particles, and turbidity is using mollusk sand, activated carbon, and gravel. Thanks.
Okay. The next section is household system, that is divided in two parts. The first one is alternative system for different needs and location. The utilization of one of these systems depends on several variables like climate conditions, the kind of building, other can be the filtering, the amount of rainwater, and principally the final uses for the water. The filters are the principal difference on the or between systems. There are other kind of systems that uses the rainwater, like for instance using the existing boreholes to get rainwater. Despite that, this system, in this system, the water is not filtered, and the water is not apt for human consumption. This water can be used for irrigation, for instance. There is not a single way to reach for a rainwater harvesting. Each part of the system can be made or purchased, and there is not only system that works in every place. For instance, the gutter can be made on metal, plastic, or includes can be made from bamboo trunks, with their own advantages and disadvantages. Then the filters, essential part of the system, depends of the kind of pollutant that you get or that you have, and the ubication of the tanks rests on the logistic of the system and the aesthetic needs of the people. Okay, the next part is water filtration and sustainability. The rainwater harvesting isn't new, but this kind of sustainability practice is becoming in a globally trend. There are many governments and companies that are developing systems to catch, filter, and reuse rainwater. In developed countries, the main motivation for this this kind of practice is that they have a regulation that reward the citizens for use this kind of system, this kind of sustainable system, and the companies sell it. But in undeveloped countries, the situation is quite different, because in this case the use of rainwater relies on the fact that they many times they need this resource to get, they need this kind of system to reach water, because this is the only way that they have to get it. Finally, the next slide shows very many advantages from an article named "Water." What are the benefits and advantages of rainwater harvesting? This article is from Maxwell Gaines and states 9 advantages from this kind of practice. The first, this is free water for for oil is a primary source of water or a backup plan for emergency situations. This kind of practice reduces the contamination. Is an excellent opportunity for use the rainwater for irrigation and other uses. And then other advantages is that these systems can save cities, municipality resources. How these systems can be made or can become in new standards for energy and water efficiency. Can be a new source of job for the companies. Is independent source of water and reduce the amount of chemicals in water in the process of potabilization of the water. This is it. Thank you.
Okay. In conclusion, despite the fact that the water services supply are being developed along the country, some families or cities don't have access to the water services because this service don't reach to their houses. So this system of water harvesting and filtration is a great idea for this for the people in this situation because in general these kind of systems are very expensive and very complex, but this system previously explained is so simple and cheaper. But the disadvantage of this system is that it doesn't work. Does not work. Sorry, in sorry. I will check my notes. In drought areas or drought times, and the is recommended whenever is possible. It is better to get the water for human consumption or hygiene from the grid.
Well, and finally, on the screen, we can see the references and some websites where the information that we used in our paper was founded, and you can check it if you are interested in. And thank you so much for your attention.